Okay, so it is being recorded. As I told you earlier, this collection of poems by Pablo Neruda, Viente Poemas de Amor y una Canción Desesperada, that is, uh, 20 love poems and a song of despair. Written in 1924 in Spanish, but then it was translated into English in 1969 by W.S. Merwin, and this collection contains some of his most famous works. In particular, Tonight I Can Write the Saddest Lines. Okay, now what makes this poem stand apart is the way that he has recollected the transition, the journey of an entire relationship. Now, there's also a bit more of information that I would like to give you about Pablo Neruda. He was called Ricardo Eliezer, it's a long name, Ricardo Eliezer Neftali y Bosalto. Okay, and he was born on July 12th, 1904. So his actual name is Ricardo Bosalto, and yeah, he is otherwise called Pablo Neruda. That's his pen name. Okay, and he has been, kind of associated with love and the poetry of sensuality over the ages. Okay, and so much so that it is he has become a byword for romantic poetry. There is, I think, in your first class I had read out some poems by Pablo Neruda, and some of his poems have been coalesced into film. They've been made into a movie, a Postman, and so on. And there is something very delicate, very fragile about the way that he writes about love. Now, it's very beautiful. The tone of expression and the way that he deals with something. See, when you write poetry, every second person is a poet, and every third person writes about love. If they don't write about love, then they'll write about the lack of love, or the loss of love. But there's always a at least one love poem that a poet writes in his or her lifetime. Even if you are not a poet, you would have written a poem about love. It's one of those things, because it's a universal emotion. But the way that you might write about love may not be the way that somebody else writes about love. So while he writes about this very universal topic called love, it's the treatment, the technique, the beauty with which that he talks about it. For him, love is something of an object that is made of crystal. Okay, it is beautiful, it is sensuous, it is dangerous. At the same time, it is extremely irresistible also. So even when he is writing about this relationship and the way that it has transitioned over the times, and he's talking about the end of a relationship, the sadness that he conveys can be felt in your heart. Okay, so let's take a look at the lines right now. I'm going to present my screen. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm going to read it out. Tonight, I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. The night wind evolves in the sky and sings. Tonight, I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. She loved me. Sometimes I loved her too. How could one not have loved her great still eyes? Tonight, I write the saddest lines. To think that I do not have her, to feel that I have lost her, to hear the immense light, still more immense without her, night, still more immense without her. And the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is starry, and she is not with me. This is all. In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. My sight tries to find her as though to bring her closer. My heart looks for her, and she is not with me. The same night, whitening the same trees, we of that time are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that's certain. But how I loved her! My voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing. Another's. She will be another's, as she was before my kisses. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. I no longer love her, that's certain. But maybe I love her. Love is so short, forgetting is so long. Because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Though this be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her. Okay, this is the poem in its entirety. And I told you before, this was translated by W.S. Mervyn. Okay, and look at this poem. See, there are some things that are often repeated. The use of the word saddest. Okay, where the word saddest kind of indicates the number of times that uh, through its repetition, what it does is that it indicates how sad the poet actually is. Understand? 1 second, please. Are you still with me? Yeah. Mm. Screen is not visible. Yeah, that's because I minimized it just now. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to
Yes,
see when I
ma'am.
was putting the poem out? Okay, right. So as I was telling you, the use of the word, the repeated use of the word saddest. Okay, then the repeated use of the word loved. See, in that thing, it says I loved her. Sometimes she loved me too. After some time, it is she loved me. Sometimes I loved her too. See, this is the way in which he uses words, the way he uses sentences and their structures in order to convey the way that our thoughts work, the way that human emotions wax and wane and wax and wane, kind of a thing. So see, he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines because he's extremely upset, extremely forlorn that the relationship is no more. So he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines. Hmm? Write, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. The night wind revolves in the sky and sings. So that essential loneliness, the essential desolation that pervades him, okay, and he places that or juxtaposes that with or against the night sky, which is full of stars. And the stars, they seem blue and they're shivering in the distance because they're cold. When something is blue, it indicates extreme cold. So it's like the way that his heart is feeling, that his body is feeling without him not being able to be there next to her. Okay, so he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Okay, so what we have to understand is that these poems, these lines go beyond the stated meaning. Beneath them or underneath them, they convey this extreme and beautiful depth of sorrow, okay, of loneliness and desolation. So he says, through nights like this one, see, now he is reminiscing, he is remembering. Through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. Okay, so now through the agency of memory, through the element of memory, what he does is that he evokes those happy moments that they spent together, that where she was in physical proximity to him, where she was actually physically present there and close to him, and he could hold her. So the idea of being able to touch something, okay, to experience the warmth of something, now that is in contrast to the night sky and the stars that are blue and shiver in the distance. Understand? That kind of a, you now see it comes together, the blue and shiver in the distance as opposed to I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. So when he draws her close to him, he is warm, understand, he is comfortable, he feels happy. But now, just as she is no more in his life, just as she is no longer present in his life, now the night sky also seems distant, and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance because of the cold, lonely feeling that he gets. Okay. So then again he says, she loved me, sometimes I loved her too. How could not have one not have loved her great still eyes? Okay. So see, now he doesn't like, you can think of my mistress's eyebrows are nothing like, eyes are nothing like the sun, and that's a sonnet by Shakespeare. And he talks about how his mistress is far from being perfect, but he loves her, he really really loves her a lot. Understand, there are lots of these poems that look into the imperfections of the human body. Okay, but here see, he does not say she was extremely beautiful or so on. Okay, but he kind of describes her element by element, bit by bit, piece by piece, segment by segment. He does that. The things that he most remembers or most thinks of, he has placed in front of us. Okay, so he says, how could one not have loved her great still eyes? So now you know that she had extremely beautiful eyes, that they were still. Okay, now stillness just does not mean eerie. It means that her eyes were calm, her eyes were serene. There was something very serene and beautiful about her. Okay, so again, he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines. See here, when you realize that he's not consciously going to write the saddest lines. The feeling that is there within him is so overwhelming that it will lead him to write the saddest lines, because what he feels in his heart, he expresses it on paper. So he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines, to think that I do not have her, to feel that I have lost her. So to mark that feeling of desolation, of loss, okay, of utter and total despair, he will be able to write those saddest lines. To hear the immense night, still more immense without her, and the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. So see, now look at that. The night is also a motif. Motif is an image that occurs again and again. Motif. Yes. So he says that. Excuse me, 1 minute. Are you following? Are you able to understand what I'm saying? Am I going too fast?
Yes, ma'am, we can understand.
Okay, fine. Right. Okay, so we are back. Where was that? Yes, the use of the word night again. So see, look at that. In the beginning, it says the night is starry, and that sense of loneliness and despair is represented through the use of the word night. Okay. Then he juxtaposes that night against all the other nights that he has spent with her. Okay. So night becomes memory. Okay. Night becomes memory. Then in the next segment, he says, the immense night is still more immense without her. Understand? So night here represents life. Okay, and the loneliness that one experiences in life. Okay, so he says this life, which was anyway lonely, now feels even more lonely without her. It seems endless without her, because he has used the word endless, in terms of the sky, right? So that's another meaning that emerges. See, why this poem is so celebrated is because within seemingly simple lines, it contains, excuse me, within seemingly simple lines, it contains those great, layers of meaning. Understand? And that makes it admirable. It's like peeling the skin of an onion. The way that the meanings just emerge, the more and more you read. Understand? And what is this poem all about? It is about the loss, the sense of loss, the sense of despair, the angst and anguish that one feels at the end of a relationship. Understand? At the end of a romantic relationship with someone. That's the basic theme of this book. But is that all it is? It talks about the far reaching impact that grief can make. Okay, that the sudden exit of a person from one's life can make. Okay, the physical, mental void, VOID, the physical and mental void that a beloved can leave behind in our lives. Okay, this identifiability, IDENTIFIABLITY, this identifiability that Neruda is able to elicit, ELICIT, that he is able to elicit, that's what makes these lines, his poems in particular, very special. Okay, because when you read this, if you have ever loved anybody, it doesn't have to be romantic love. If you have loved anybody and they have suddenly left you, or they're no longer with you, then you can understand this grief. You can understand how everything suddenly seems very, very immense, endless. You look into new meanings, you look into new ways of perceiving things. Okay, things that seemed very, very, very ordinary suddenly seem to take on new meanings. Understand? Like the way night has taken up new meanings, new connotations here. CONNOTATIONS. Okay, new connotations. So the word night has taken new connotations here. Yes. Yes, and look at that. He says, to hear the immense night, still more immense without her, and the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. When dew falls on grass, when he says pasture, he means grassland. Do you think it makes a thudding noise? Is it like a book falling to a floor? Do you think it's like that?
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
What is the sound of the dew falling on grass?
It's very quiet.
It's very quiet. It is almost, not almost, it is like, a feather coming to rest on the earth. Okay? Yeah. It's like a feather coming to rest on the earth. That is what it feels like. Okay? So look at the delicate nature of his sorrow. His poems fall on his soul, okay, fall deep within him, fall in his core, CORE, okay, fall in his core the way that dew falls on the grasslands. Okay. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is starry and she is not with me. So it doesn't matter that, my love was not strong enough to hold her, that my love was not strong enough to keep her with me, because the night is starry and she is not with me. Okay. Nothing matters because, the night is still starry, but she is not with me. Life is still here, life goes on, but she is not there. Okay. See, that's another thing, in the middle of all of this, poetry, we imagine that he's being pragmatic, but he is not. When I say pragmatic, I mean practical. Okay, he is not. When, again, see, the word night here is used in as a symbol of life. Okay. So he says night is starry, that is, life is still going on, but she is not with me. Okay. Then does it make it the same life? Does life feel the same? Can it be the same? I'm asking you, can it be the same?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So now let's just go over this much once again. Okay. So this poem is one that talks about this feeling of extreme grief, desolation, and despair at the exit of a beloved person from one's life. Okay, the poet, in very delicate fashion, talks about the ways in which the end of the relationship has affected him. Okay, and here the night is seen as symbol or symbolic of life itself. Okay, and the way that his life is impacted at various times because of the presence or the absence of the beloved. Okay, so when he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines, it is not a conscious effort. He feels that such is his overwhelming grief and such is his overwhelming sense of desolation and sorrow, that nothing but the saddest lines can occur to him at this point. Okay, and he says, I can write the saddest lines, like, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. Now, here the word night recurs at various points in the poem, and at each point of time, it stands for life. Okay, stands for life itself. So he says life is as it is, but there is something cold about it. There is something lonely about it. See, he says the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. What he's trying to say is that probably because they are so far apart from their beloved, that there is no one to love them, they seem cold or they feel cold. Okay, and this whole idea of bringing in the cold, the reference to the cold itself, is a way of showing extreme loneliness. Okay, the night wind revolves in the sky and sings. So see, it's like the soul of the poet that is singing sad songs. Okay, as it wanders from place to place and it sings sad songs, the night wind also revolves in the sky and sings. And he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. So this is again a portrayal of the way that, while being in the throes, throes, throes of a relationship, love waxes and wanes and waxes and wanes, and sometimes one person loves the other person a bit more at some point, and vice versa. It could be like that. Okay, so he shows how, the relationship was like was seesawing, but still there was love. There was plenty of love. And then he reminisces, he thinks back that on nights like this one, exactly this one, I held her in my arms. Okay, and he kissed her again and again under the endless sky. So, see, on another day of my life, which looked exactly like this, I I had her in physical and mental proximity, and I kissed her endlessly. I was touching her. Now contrast that with the sense of loneliness, cold, and the dark that pervades these lines here, right? That is it. Yeah. So you have that, and then he says again. He repeats, "She loved me. Sometimes I loved her too. How could one not love her great still eyes?" How could one not love her great still eyes? Hmm? Yes. Tonight I can write the saddest lines, to think that I do not have her, to feel that I have lost her. So, see, again, that sense of extreme sadness, a sense of loneliness that comes to him when he realizes that she's not there anymore, that, he has lost her. Hmm? And then he continues to say, to hear the immense night still more immense without her, and the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. Again, the word night makes a comeback. Okay, the reference to the night again is life. Okay, this is, it's life like every day. It is endless, it is long, but the long night or the long life becomes or feels like even longer when she is not there. Okay, and the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. So his poems fall, his lines fall very gently right into the core of his soul, the way that dew settles upon the pasture, quietly, gently, in a very fragile manner. Okay. What does it matter? So he said, doesn't matter that my love could not keep her. The night is starry and she is not with me. That is, this is life as usual. This is life as usual as it has always been. But she is not with me. And that, makes all the difference. That's what he's trying to say. This is all. That is it. In the distance, someone is singing in the distance. So see, again, like the night sky, which is beyond reach, he talks about someone singing in the distance. Okay, so here the distance again stands for the the physical as well as the mental distance that the beloved has covered, that she has covered and gone away. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. See, this was translated from Spanish, so it may not be my soul is not satisfied. It must be that my soul is not happy that it has lost her. My sight tries to find her as though to bring her closer. My heart looks for her and she is not with me. So see, through all his senses, through every avenue of perception, he is searching for her. Through his eyes, through the faculty of touch, through hearing, through feeling, through sense, through everything, he's looking for her, but he cannot find her. He conveys a very, very desperate image, when he refers to this portion. Okay, it conveys how desperate he is. Okay, the same night whitening the same trees, we of that time are no longer the same. So he says it's the same night, again night standing for life. Okay, it's the same life and it follows the same processes, same conditions, same schedules, same everything. See, in nature, for example, there is the rainy season, then there is summer, then again it rains, it is cold. Seasons follow their own cycles. But here, the greatest love story in the world could go on and then it could break up or it could not exist. Do you think nature cares? No. Nature just follows its rhythm, it does what it has to do. That is exactly what happens here also. So that is what he's saying. See, in life, life, it is the same life. Okay. And snow falls on the same trees in the same fashion. That is, it is the same life, and everything happens the way it is supposed to happen. That is, he gets up in the morning, he might take a bath, he brushes his teeth, he eats his breakfast. It's all the same. But we of that time, understand, we who were something together in the past, we are no longer the same. Something indefinable has changed about them. He is not the same. Nothing is the same. There is this famous song in a movie by Guru Dutt. Okay. I think it is Pyasa, where he sings, Waqt ne kiya kya haseen sitam, tum rahe na tum, hum rahe na hum. That is, look at the ravages of time, look at the sweet ravages of time. You are no longer who you were, I am no longer who I used to be. Understand? So once you fall in love or once you love somebody, you don't have to, I'm not just talking about romantic love, any kind of love, any kind of love that you have for someone. Once you love them, then they change you in small, indefinable ways. Understand? And suppose they are not with you anymore, they have gone away or anything, those changes remain, plus you again change in ways that you may not be able to pinpoint, but that happens. Of course, for that you have to be sincere. Should be pretending to be in love with somebody, then you're finished. Okay, there'll be no change in you, you'll still be the same person. Okay, so anyway, so see, we of that time are no longer the same. We are not the same. Understand? So when he realizes that life is the same, the processes of life are going on just the same. Nothing has changed, but something has changed. Something from the past has changed. Okay. I no longer love her. That is certain. He's like, I don't love her. That is sure. I mean, he's trying to convince himself. But how I loved her. My voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing. You see, I don't love her anymore. But there was a time when I loved her, and I loved her so much that I would want the wind to touch her hearing. Okay, that is to touch that which cannot be touched, to reach her, to own her, to possess her, to love her in ways which are not humanly possible. Okay, So, see, imagine being able to touch someone's hearing. You can touch someone's speech, you can touch the air that comes out of their lips or something. But how do you touch someone's hearing? By speaking to them, sure, but still, imagine that. So that kind of beautiful, delicate love, that is beautiful. Hmm? Yes. So he says, another's. She will be another's, as she was before my kisses. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. So see, he says, the look at the way that the word is written there. Another's. She will be another's. See? The way that the words break up in order to show the heartbroken condition of the poet. Look at this here. In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance. Okay? There is this silent sorrow in the way these words are structured. Same comes here also. Another's. She will be another's. As she was before my kisses. So she was somebody else's girlfriend before she was mine. But see, that doesn't change anything. That's what he's trying to say. Hmm? Yes. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. And he says, I no longer love her. That's certain. But maybe I love her. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Okay, so he says, you know, I don't love her. That is true. See, now earlier he was saying I loved her sometimes, then sometimes she loved me. Then he says sometimes she loved me and I loved her. Then now he has transitioned to I no longer love her. That is certain. Then again he says I no longer love her, but maybe I love her. So see, the heart is trying to fight back. His will tells him, his mind tells him to not, continue to be in love with her anymore. But his heart prevents that. Okay. Sometimes our heart can be our biggest enemy. So he says, love is so short, but forgetting is so long. So, sometimes relationships have a very short life. Love, you fall in love, you fall out of love. But it's the fact of forgetting. How do you forget someone that you have loved with so much of sincerity, so much of passion, so much of power? How do you just forget them? Okay, they will come back to you. Images will come back to you. Something will remind you of them. Memories will come back to you. All of this will happen. Okay, so love is so short, but forgetting so long. This is one of the most signature lines from this poem. Sorry. Because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. So, see, through these times of life, through all those times of life, I have held her close to me. How can I forget that? Okay, maybe the relationship has ended, but the memories continue. Okay, it's the hardest thing to get rid of the memories. Though this be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses I write for her. So he says, this will be the last pain that she makes me suffer, because after this, she is no longer with me. Okay, she has gone away, she has become another's. And these will be the last lines that I write for her. I will not lament her loss again. I will not cry for her again. I will not, lament over the kind of sorrow that I experience. But, that is again ironic because he has already declared in the beginning of the poem that tonight I can write the saddest lines. Understand? So he has already, undergone that pain. He has already incurred that suffering. Then what is it? What is left? Understand? So that is what brings this poem to a very, very effective conclusion. All right. So when, one sec. Yeah. So this is in effect the crux of the poem. Understand? The sense of loss, the longing, the despair, the sadness that the poet feels at the loss of his beloved. Okay, that is what distinguishes this poem, as well as the delicate nature of his love. The way that he juxtaposes his love against ideas like the night, okay, against seasons, okay, against the and the way that he mirrors how the thoughts work. Sometimes I loved her, sometimes she loved me. Actually, I do not no longer love her anymore, but maybe I actually do love her some more. Okay. And also notice the fact that his memories keep coming back to him right in the middle of the poem. He says something, and then suddenly he says, I no longer love her, that is certain. Okay. And then again, he's saying something else, and in the middle comes that particular point where he says, like nights like these, during nights like these, I have held her close to me and have kissed her endlessly. Understand? So you see that the sorrow is almost palpable in the lines. Understand? And the way in which he uses poetry, the way in which he uses verse to express that sorrow. Okay, that's what sets this poem apart. And the quiet way in which he ends, he seems to be giving us a conclusion that, after this is the last sorrow that she makes me suffer, the last pain that she makes me suffer. This is the last lines I will write for her. But then he himself has said, love is short and forgetting is so long. So it may not be possible for him to do so. Okay, so that is the poem for you. Is there anything you would like to clarify or ask me? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so shall we stop the class for the time being then?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
And textbook